Our high-stakes drafters selecting Dion Lewis too high right now. What is the best fantasy landing spot for Jarvis Landry? And will the 2017 QB4 actually be underdrafted this year? Plus, 2017 FPC $30,000 runner-up Dwayne McFarlane rejoins the program to talk about his third top 5 overall finish in the contest, whether Deontay Foreman is ready to be the man in Houston, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Gerzak-anatics. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is, of course, the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, should you be buying on Martavis Bryant in Dynasty right now? And we take a look at how the quarterbacks finished in 2017. Plus, Dwayne Mcfarlane, the former guest of the show, drops in again to discuss how frequently he varies his draft strategy, the impact that John Gruden will have on the Raiders this season, and a lot more stuff we will get to. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions you might have in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can do so at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, at David Gerzak. Dwayne McFarland is on Twitter at Dwayne McFarland. You can post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF Hour. If you want to chime in and talk with us, give us a call. 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. You can also email the show at the inbox at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. And, of course, you can check out our website, hsffhour.com, to keep up with the latest goings-on with the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. If you do have any questions for us or for Dwayne, now is the time to send them. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, tweets, and emails in the fantasy feedback segment coming up in the second half of the show. Our audio engineer is Bryce. Our producer is our mutual friend, Rob, and they are working very hard tonight. Exciting news from the FFPC today. Not only can you sign up for best balls at 35, 77, and 250, both in the standard FFPC format, but the Superflex format as well. Live drafts, of course, going on this weekend in addition to the slows. But starting next week, Dave, an exciting function that people will be able to auto-register for best balls, multiple best balls all at once, starting next week.
It's best ball. Why are you calling it balls?
Best balls.
There's one ball.
Best ball drafts or best balls.
Jeez.
So anyway,
yes.
Tell the listeners a little bit about that. What this is if you like to play a lot of best ball leagues.
Thank you very much.
All at once, you can sign up for multiple ones. How is that going to work?
Oh, when you register for a certain league, if it's, let's say we're playing a $35 Draft Experts league, it gives you an option of auto-registering for future drafts, like 1, 3, 5, 10, or unlimited. And as long as we have drafts going on, it'll just add you into the next one. The one limit is that we won't have more than 8 auto-registering people into one draft at once. You're not playing like 20 drafts against the same 11 other guys.
Right, exactly. And the benefit to this is obviously before you would have to go on that PC website, see if there was a new 35 listed, a new 77 listed, a new 250 listed. No longer. It's going to auto-register for you as many as you want to sign up for. And then that way you can draft more often, which, listen, we like, you like, everybody likes. It's a win-win-win, as Michael Scott would say.
We're pretty excited about it.
Other stuff to be excited about coming up, I believe the target is next week, but the announcement of potentially some FFPC Dynasty maiden drafts coming up shortly.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about that too. That'll be cool.
Orphans, as of right now, are all spoken for.
They're currently all sold, yes.
Could be more sold. So if you do want to take advantage of an orphan team, when they become available. Check it out on myffpc.com/dynasty, and then look for the announcement on maiden drafts coming up this week as well. At least that is the plan, Dave. It's all part of the plan. Let's get to tonight's guest here. He is not only had one, but two teams in the top four of the Football Guys Players Championship back in 2014. He cashed nearly $30,000 for that performance, finishing ahead of nearly 6,000 other squads in the contest. This past season, he almost made it to the mountaintop again, beating out all but one team, more than 7,000 teams, in the 2017 FPC.
We see his name up there a lot.
Yeah, it's up there quite a bit, and he took second place this year. So now he's finished second, third, and fourth in the contest and has a lot of money to show for it. Please welcome back to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, Mr. Dwayne McFarlane. What's up, man?
Hey, guys. Doing good. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
We are doing excellent. Man, it's second, third, and fourth, Dwayne. You're filling in that outside straight there. You just need to get a little bit higher to get that big payday, man.
Yeah, I thought this year might be the year for number one, but you know how it goes. Hey, I'm happy just to keep hanging around up there. I'm thinking eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah, the longer you hang up there, the more likely it is that you will get into that first spot. Hey, remind the listeners, Dwayne, what you do for a living when you're not winning $30,000 in the Football Guys Players Championship.
So I'm an associate vice president in a healthcare analytics organization. So spend a lot of time with data, a lot of time trying to figure out what the data means, how to use that to help hospitals. So kind of the same thing I do in fantasy.
So you'll have like an Excel spreadsheet you're working on, and then one tab will be like healthcare projections, costs and so on. And then in the secret other tab you have hit points above average or shit like that.
Yeah, all my coworkers that know I do it come to me every year. This has been going on for a while, and it's, hey, can I have the spreadsheet for their local draft? So it's kind of a water cooler topic.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk some fantasy. You didn't get the 7th round discount on Kareem Hunt that many did last season, but you still grabbed him after Bell and Gurley. So with the impending return of Spencer Ware, does that concern you at all? I mean, Hunt has an early ADP of 109. Do you think Hunt's a potential bust?
I don't think so. I mean, it really depends on how Spencer Ware looks in the preseason. I do like Spencer Ware, but I don't really see him as being something, special. So I think we'll just need to keep an eye on it in the preseason and see how he looks. But, Andy Reid has been a guy that traditionally has been willing to let one guy carry the load. And even if he wants to shave some of that off, there's such, really a security blanket with just the fact that they usually get the catches from a PPR standpoint. He's not really a guy I worry too much about. I wouldn't want to take him much higher than where he's going. I think he's slotted, about right. I'm not going to take him over Odell Beckham, or guys like that, though, which I'm seeing quite often in some of the recent ADP data. But I definitely like him over Melvin Gordon, but I put him in that range with Dalvin Cook. I like him over Fournette just because of the catches. And, like I said, Reid has shown a propensity to keep a guy on the field.
Yeah, that's been his MO, is to focus on one running back, which is kind of weird because we were all concerned. Think about when we were drafting in, I would say, like late July, early August. Both Ware and Hunt were both getting depressed in drafts as far as their value goes. Ware was like a 5th rounder, somewhere around there, and Hunt was going 8th, 9th, sometimes even in double-digit rounds. And we all kind of ignored that. We all kind of thought, like, look, it's probably going to be a time.
I'm still here. You guys
Hello.
there?
If anyone can hear us, we're having technical issues. 1 second.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
What happened? Should I check the surge protector? Circuit breaker?
Yeah.
None of them were tripped.
Okay, we're back.
Is it live?
Hey,
Oh, brother.
Hey, Dwayne, can you hear us?
yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, we can hear you. Okay. Well, that was exciting. Add that to the lore of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Never had that happen before. Some sort of power surge in the studio. Our audio engineer, Bryce, is working on fixing that right now. So I'm glad everything is still copacetic and we are good to go. So to wrap up my point on Kareem Hunt and Spencer Ware, we don't want to fall, and per what you're saying, Dwayne, we may not want to fall into the trap of this could be a timeshare again, because historically it has not been a timeshare in an Andy Reid offense, and this could be, Kareem Hunt, maybe not duplicating what he did last year, but paying off a late first-round value for sure. Let's talk about a guy who will not be a first-round pick in fantasy this year, and that's Devontae Parker. Now, in your Football Guys draft last year in this league that you got the runner-up spot at, Dwayne, 502 was where you got Devontae Parker, the receiver from the Dolphins. He finished as wide receiver 51. Considering he might be catching passes from a different quarterback for the third straight year, has the breakout shine worn off enough to avoid him, even though he's going as wide receiver 42 in the mid-ninth round of FFPC drafts right now? Is that enough for you to get on board with them?
I still like him at that price. I mean, he's the perfect kind of candidate to me for a 9th or 10th round kind of pick. You know, he definitely has the talent. You know, he's a guy I loved in college, loved film, loved everything about him. And some of these guys, it just takes time. Now, if it doesn't happen this year, a la kind of like Kevin White, I'm definitely starting to fade on. But, Parker I just liked a lot better coming out. And the other thing I would say is that if Jarvis Landry is traded, he doesn't get tagged and he's not with the Dolphins, I guess it doesn't matter who's throwing passes almost. I mean, I prefer it to be, Tannehill or one of the younger quarterbacks. Obviously Cutler was not, very good this year. But, I think that's a great value in the 9th round. A guy that we know has talent. Could he get hurt? Could he flame out? Yeah, but volume is king. I mean, if Jarvis Landry's gone, he's going to have guaranteed 125 plus targets. He could get 150. Stills could come in and perform. I think, whoever Jakeem Grant kind of flashed a little at the end of the year. So definitely would want to watch preseason. The biggest thing for him is he just needs to stay healthy. I think every time he starts to build momentum, he pulls something and he doesn't play through the injury. So, for him, all we know, it may be a mental game. He may never be able to get over the hurdle. But at the 9th round, there's not many other players that I see at that spot that could potentially have 125, 150 targets.
There's another guy too, Dave. We always talk about when you load up at a position early in the draft, it's important not to just ignore that position going on out. And for people who love the zero RB, you load up on those 4 or 5 receivers early on right away. It's important not to ignore that position after that. 9th round for Devontae Parker, not a bad way to get a 5th receiver or your number 5 receiver on your roster.
Yeah, I'm not as big of a Devontae Parker fan as you guys are, so
you'll be staying away.
I will continue to stay.
You'll be on Dizzle Island.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think I did listen. I forgot what you said. He's dead to you or something in one of the last podcasts. So I was kind of figuring that would be your response. But I've learned my lesson. I've said players have been dead to me before, and then they've come back and been phenomenal. And so, I just try to, really lean in, to the data and just try to, if he has the chance to get that kind of volume, it's just hard to ignore. And he could completely flop, but that opportunity could be there.
Yeah, if you get that many targets,
right.
Even Devin Funchess type guy or Kelvin Benjamin type guy catch passes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
exactly.
Let's talk about Deion Lewis.
Yeah, and that's about where I put it.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense. Next question is about Deion Lewis. He is going apparently at the 605, which intuitively that feels high to me. It feels early for a Belichick offense. But what do you think about him overall?
I love Deion Lewis. I loved this guy, back whenever Trent Richardson, came to the Browns. And that, if you guys remember that preseason, I think it was Trent's second season. Or no, maybe it was his rookie season, but Deion Lewis got hurt, which that's his problem, right? He's a smaller guy, but the talent is there. I love him. It just all depends on landing spot. There's no way. I don't draft this early unless I'm doing maybe a best ball league or something just to have some fun. But there's no way I would touch him, there right now. But if he lands in the right spot, where he can get the touches, I mean, absolutely. You're going to have to be prepared for injury, but, if he stays on the field or for the games he's on the field, I mean, I think he's proven time and time again. I mean, he's an electric back.
Okay, great. Dwayne, I know you're in data and probably more in mathematics, but I'm sure you have some English skills. So can you tell me, what do you think the plural of best ball is? Do you think it's best ball, or do you think it's best ball?
Well, for the purposes of having fun on the radio show, I think it's best balls.
There you go.
See, whatever. You guys are like on a team.
We're not on
I feel like I'm on CNN here, and I'm the Trump guy.
You just don't understand quality radio like Dwayne and I do.
Just whatever. Next question.
Dwayne McFarlane, our guest tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, fresh off his $30,000 runner-up finish in the 2017 Football Guys Players Championship. Dwayne, what was it like watching that weird Eagles-Raiders game when you're sitting near the top of the leaderboard in play for that $250,000 grand prize?
Well, I tell you what, this is what the fantasy football gods have done for the NFL. There's no way I watch that game if I'm not in fantasy football. That was the worst game ever. And so, but having the player you're rooting for changes all of that. I mean, I'm literally staring at Zach Ertz every play. Where's he lining up? Is he in the slot? Is he split out? Why? Are they blitzing? And I'll be honest, going into the game, if you look back at Ertz's last year, I think I needed, 23 or 24 points, and he had scored that many or more, I think, about 40% of his games. So I knew, I was less than a coin flip to win, but in the first half, I mean, it could have been over. He missed 2 touchdown catches. So, I mean, whenever you're playing for that kind of money, you see those things as fantasy owners. I know you guys do too. You're watching on the weekend, especially when you're watching Red Zone and they show all the just near misses, and you're like, oh my gosh, or the guy gets tackled at the 1. But those things are just all magnified whenever you're trying to play for that much money. But I'll tell you what, even though it was hard to sit there, and I had several of my family members were over, and they were all rooting on. Their kids were rooting on. I have a 2-year-old nephew. He has no clue who Zach Ertz is, but he's just running around my house just screaming, Ertz! I mean, so the whole thing was, it was super cool. This is the thing about it. This is my 3rd time to go into a Monday night game in a major kind of tournament like this, where I was up against, where a tight end was in play. The other 2 times, I was on the other end where I didn't have anyone left. So one of them was what you mentioned earlier in the show, Eric, where the guy that won first that year had Tony Gonzalez in 2014, and I think he needed like 8.5 points, and he passed me on the final drive. I was in one of my teams was in first that night. And so that year I was in the 250 and I fell out to a tight end. And then a couple of years before that, I was out in Vegas through another tournament, and it was when Greg Olsen was still on the Bears, and it cost me $10,000 because I got passed on Monday night by Greg Olsen. So I thought, hey, 3rd time's a charm. I actually have the tight end this time. And tell you what, by halftime, I thought I was 80% to win. And then after the 3rd quarter, I was back down to like 20 or 30%. I'll tell you, I mean, every pass that Foles missed him, I am not a Nick Foles fan. I'll tell you that right now. Sorry, Nick, you seem like a great guy winning the Super Bowl and all that, but that guy, I definitely had some bad 4-letter words coming out of my mouth associated with Nick Foles that night.
That was a crazy night too because there was so much wind. Was it just wind and cold?
Yeah, the wind was the biggest factor. Yeah, it was just crazy. And the thing is like, there was, Michael Crabtree had a 0 that night. I believe Alshon Jeffrey had a 0 that night. Nelson Aguilar basically had.
Like Crabtree,
Nelson Aguilar had.
Like
it all came late. I mean, he almost did nothing for the majority of the game, and then he came on. So it was just a really, really bizarre game to watch. And not to bring up fresh wounds about Zach Ertz, but go ahead.
Well, no. In y'all's format, I mean, that's what's so cool about it with the tight end. I mean, you're literally talking about 1 catch and 7 yards is all and when they're in that little 2-minute drill, and you guys know this is every weekend on fantasy, the best 2 minutes of your weekend is the end of the first half games where the red zone is just freaking, I mean, all of a sudden, just scores start blowing up everywhere, right? Well, you're in that moment of the game. They're in their 2-minute drill, and you're thinking, and he hit Ertz on a couple of passes. I just needed one more. And he literally missed him on one that was almost like a behind the line of scrimmage kind of pass where he was like 3 yards from him. And I'm just like, oh, seriously. And there was nobody there. But, I tell you what, it's still fun, even going through the defeat, it just makes you want to get back up and you're like, okay, what do you do to keep getting yourself into that position? What'd you learn this year? What are you going to apply? That kind of thing. So, and I heard the other guys, that won, I forgot their names, but, I heard their podcast, I listened to it. You guys had them on a couple of weeks ago. Seem like great guys. They know what they're talking about. So, Deion Lewis really kicked me in the sack. That guy that's what got me.
Yeah.
They had Deion Lewis really go off, and I was like, when I saw that, I was like, dang, I knew that was going to be a challenge, and it was.
Yeah, and they had, if I remember correctly, they made like a couple of correct decisions that really impacted them on the positive.
They did.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
They did.
Well, Dwayne,
what's funny is I released Deion Lewis on that team. Sorry, what's funny is I released Deion Lewis on that team, but I couldn't play him. I mean, I needed receivers because you guys saw the other receiver I had was Sammy Watkins, and I had Marvin Jones. Thank God, I drafted Marvin Jones on every team, and so he came through. I mean, down the stretch through the middle of the season. But yeah, I dropped Deion because I had Kareem Hunt, I had Gurley, had Bell, and then now I'm struggling. Who else did I have? I had Zach Ertz at tight end, but anyway, I just didn't have a spot for him, and he wasn't. He didn't have the playing time at that point. So anyway.
All right. Well, before we're going to leave the knife in you just a little bit and twist it.
Just a slight twist, like a 10-degree twist.
Who are you more likely to draft next year, Zach Ertz or Travis Kelce?
Well, right now, I don't know what their ADP will be in y'all's draft, but in most of what I'm seeing, they're a full round apart. So I would take Ertz because he's going almost a round later. However, if they got closer together, I prefer Kelce. I love Ertz. He was a huge part of my season this year. I really targeted him pretty heavily. I think I had him on 5 of my 16 teams. So he was a guy that I knew that I wanted. But I just love the edge that Kelce plays with. That just that ferociousness, that just that extra umph, that he has. And I feel like, maybe with a guy like Mahomes, not, Mr. Super ultra conservative Alex Smith, Kelce's a guy you can jam it in there too. You give him the targets, and I say he's the number one fantasy tight end.
Yeah, right now, according to our good friend Darren Armani over at Fantasy Mojo, the ADP that he has for FFPC, Travis Kelce currently going at the 204, Zach Ertz going all the way at the 212. Look, the surprising thing for me, Dwayne, and I'll get your thoughts on this in a second, but Rob Gronkowski, amid the threats of retirement, still going at the 209, which is a little surprising to me. I'd be all over Zach Ertz before Rob Gronkowski right now. What are your thoughts on taking Gronk in the late second?
I totally agree. I love Gronk as much as anyone, but it's also just the injury thing. I've been playing in y'all's format for a long time. I can't tell you how many times I've tried the Gronk thing, and it's not that it's can't. It's not that it's never going to work, right? Just like me going back to Parker, things can change, but it's just the injury and the hits he takes. Nobody wants to hit him up high. I cringe every time he catches the ball because you just see a safety flying in low, like right at his knees. The guys, it's amazing that he doesn't blow his ACL out every year. The NFL really does need to look at doing something about, some of that. And I know it's all because of the concussion stuff. But, yeah, Gronk just takes huge hits, and he's always going for the extra yards, and he's getting older. There's so many good players I can take in round one. Gronk won't be one of them.
You have all these different draft strategies, Dwayne, and Dwayne McFarlane, the runner-up in the 2017 Football Guys Players Championship, is our guest tonight. You have all these different draft strategies purported out by great sites like Draft Sharks and Football Guys and RotoViz. We have the zero RB, the robust RB. Some people like to go heavy tight end. When you draft as many Football Guys teams as you do you ever play around with those strategies at all and just to see how the team turns out? Or are you more of just like, look, I'm going to go with the best player available and build my team that way? What do you like to do when you have this, I don't want to say luxury, but when you have this opportunity to draft multiple teams like this to try a lot of different things?
I'll be honest, it's a year-to-year kind of thing. I never go into the year thinking, it's going to be runners or, it's going to be receivers. But once you see where ADP is playing out, and then If I have certain guys like last year, I loved Marvin Jones. I drafted him, I think, on every team I had except for one, just because of some research I had done. I felt like, you know what, I'm getting a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2 with Marvin Jones most likely, and so that allowed me to be more aggressive on runners. Well, if everyone else is on Marvin Jones and he's going in the 4th and I don't have a backup plan to him, well, then that changes my whole approach to the draft. So, and like last year with me having that, I did go runner heavy a lot because I felt that too many people were forcing the wide receiver heavy. And I felt the narrative around the NFL devaluing runners, I just felt, and it was starting to come back around after Zeke had his big year and things, but I just felt that, people just, they cling on to that easy narrative, right? And it used to be the runners, and then it was the receivers. I really honestly try to let the draft come to me, but I will say each year, depending on, the guys that I think are super valuable that I'm going to have on most of my teams, if they're going in the 6th, 7th, 8th rounds, then Eric, I will do what you're saying. I'll try some, because I know I'm going to have them on basically every team, so I want different combinations, almost like if you were playing a daily game, right? And oh gosh, here's the 20 guys I like this weekend, but these 5 I want on every team, and now I'm going to just try to mess around with these other combinations as much as I can. I will effort to do that, but I'll tell you, it's hard because if there's a player I don't like, I really struggle to ever take them. Usually I'll say, okay, I'm going to try it, but I just won't. Like DeMarco Murray this year kept falling, and I would hear all the love people were giving, and I like Murray. I'm a huge Cowboys fan, but I just wasn't on him this year. I could never get on that train. So I kept taking my guys. And the thing is, with me doing somewhere between 16 and 20 of these teams usually every year, even if I just allow the draft to come to me, my teams are all going to be different, enough that it's going to be a good thing. But I do like tinkering around with things, but I usually just try not to force it. I guess the one thing I would say, if I do force it, I may be sharing too much, but my strategy is to do it if I'm on the turns. I like dictating the draft and reaching for the players I want there or the players I may be targeting, because it just kind of freaks everyone out. They're like, oh crap, look what just happened. Well, I better go get this guy I want. And usually then, it just helps create value. And those are the times where I might go tight end, right? Because the benefit is when they see that especially in your format that you guys run, most likely before your pick comes again, another 6 or 7 tight ends go. And so I won't do that in the middle of the draft unless it's just super value. But on the ends, I will try it, kind of a double strategy. Hey, let's try this, and let's drive other people to maybe get a little bit irrational that sends something back to you.
Hey, Dwayne, I do too. That's great stuff, for sure. I want to talk a little bit, maybe your Cowboys fandom can shed some light on something that maybe I don't want to believe or I've been wrestling with, but the prospects of Dez Bryant in 2018. Currently in FFPC best ball drafts, he is going at the 5'11". He is the 27th receiver off the board. Your thoughts on the type of season he could have, or that he will have with Dallas this year, and what you think about his draft value there sitting at the end of the 5th round?
The 5th round, is not probably too high of a price. I'm not probably going to be drafting Dez a lot, and it's not really about Dez and his athleticism. I think a lot of that is still there. I hear a lot of people, he just doesn't have it. No, he does, but Dez has never been a route runner. Right? Dez has been a down the field, win the ball in the air. Hey, I'm a beast. He's great at run after the catch, but he's not a burner. Well, that's not really the game Dallas is playing anymore. We're playing a quick, short passing game balanced with the run game. So really the Cole Beasleys, that what they need is a really good Z. Like if they could get a really good Z that runs the underneath stuff, then you would probably be, in business. The problem is Dak and Dez, Dak doesn't do what Dez does well, and then Dez doesn't do what Dak does well, and it just creates a problem. So they can both have a ton of talent, but it's just not the right fit. Now, it's always something to watch, in training camp, but I don't know that Dez is going to change his stripes at this point in his career. You would probably more have to hope that, Dak can improve the long ball game, and then that would help things. The one thing you could point to, Eric, to maybe give a little bit of hope is if you look at what Dez did at the end of 2016, not this last year, but the end of 16, he and Dak hooked up on several deep balls, even I think against Green Bay in the playoffs. They got one. They just weren't ever to get able to get that going, So I think that's what you would have to watch for, but I don't think the prospects are really good. It's just a mismatch. It's a mismatch of scheme and talent that I think is just going to cause inconsistency and a lot of fantasy owner headache.
We have some emails I want to get to here. The first one is from Sean in Kaiser, Oregon. Do you see D'Onta Foreman surpassing Lamar Miller as the back to own in what should be a prolific offense in Houston this season? Nice job on the 30K. That is from Sean in Kaiser, Oregon. Thank you for the email, Sean. So Foreman versus Miller this year. Can Foreman surpass Miller? I mean, it's certainly Lamar Miller has not been setting an incredibly high bar to leap over. What are your thoughts? I know Foreman's coming off the injury too, but your thoughts on Foreman and what he can do behind Deshaun Watson this year?
Yeah, I like Foreman. Again, it will be something to monitor. It's a pass protection thing for him. But he's got the talent. He's kind of a one-cut, straight-ahead, runner. I know there were worries about him coming out of trying to use speed too much instead of his size, and he seemed to kind of figure some of that out. What I like is they can run the spread kind of offense, and then you get against a nickelback kind of deal, and you get this big back. It's problematic, right? It's like that's the LeGarrette Blount thing. That's what New England used to do. They even did that with Stephen Ridley, right? They get people in the nickel, and then all of a sudden they have a little bit more of a physical back. So I think Foreman's definitely the guy, to own. I want to really see how things shake out to really determine, how early we would be willing to take him. And also the draft. I mean, there's so many good runners in this draft. I won't be surprised if Houston doesn't draft another.
Let's get to Larry in Lava Hot Springs, Idaho here, Dave.
All right, Larry.
You ever been to Lava?
I wish Larry was on the air here.
You ever been to Lava Hot Springs, Idaho?
Nope, I've been to Hot Springs in Yellowstone National Park, though.
Were they lava hot? Because these are lava hot.
They're pretty damn hot, to be honest
Okay.
with you. They don't want you falling in.
We'll have to visit Larry sometime and see if we can do some sort of comparison. He writes, what sort of impact do you think John Gruden is going to have on the Raiders' offense in 2018? Thank you for the email, Larry. This is something that we've talked about.
He's going to annoy the entire offense by just talking.
That's for sure. We talked about this a lot on the show, but Dwayne, the impact that the offensive guru John Gruden will have on Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, et al. in Las Vegas, I guess it would be.
Man, I'm just not excited. I think there's so many ways that the Raiders could have gone, and it's not like I'm a Gruden hater. I just, when somebody's been away from the game that long, and I know John stayed close to the game, but I don't know. I don't see him as being a real, innovator. I see him as being someone that really got down. He assimilated components of a West Coast offense from the multiple coaches he was under. And, I mean, the West Coast, unless he's got, some innovation that he's going to add into that, or unless his last name is Shanahan, where you can add that running scheme in that those guys do, or a Kubiak, it just doesn't, excite me. I think it could be really good for Amari Cooper, if he can get over the drops and Crabtree's gone, because I think it will play to his strengths. They're going to run a lot of slants, a lot of play action, bootleg kind of stuff. So I think for Amari, if he can just get out of his own head, he could have a really, really nice year in that kind of a scheme. But other than that, I just, I don't see anything to be really super excited about. I'm not a big Jared Cook guy, I thought Marshawn looked really good last year. So, that could be one thing. John will, he likes to run the ball. He likes to set the tone in a game. But overall, it's kind of a, meh situation for me.
Let's get to the question that Dave normally asks. I'm going to ask it tonight, if that's all right with you, Dave.
Go right ahead, Eric.
Looking ahead to this year, Dwayne, and I know you're not drafting right now, but as you sort of formulate the numbers, the opinions, everything, you're shaping your mind right now as far as what you think will happen in drafts. A guy that you think is going to be overdrafted in the first few rounds, a guy that you probably will not have a whole lot of shares of, and then conversely, a guy maybe in the mid rounds, maybe even later than that, that you think is flying under the radar that you're actually going to target quite a bit, after the first few rounds are done.
Yeah, and again, like you said, we'll see, a lot's going to shake out with free agents in the draft, but looking at it right now, I just don't see myself taking Alvin Kamara in the first, 6 picks. What he and, Ingram did last year was basically a historic year. To think that that's really going to be repeated. I love Kamara. He was on probably 70% of my teams this last year, but I was getting him, in the 10th round. I would love to take Kamara and, late, mid-second, late second, early third, but the way I look at it right now, I can get Christian McCaffrey, in that range. He's going to catch a similar amount of balls, probably have a similar workload. Not quite as good or explosive, but a guy that's really going to be involved in the game plan. And I don't have to deal with knowing that there's really another really good back he has to share time with. McCaffrey has a better chance to take hold of the backfield. So when I look at that, it's almost that, it comes down to, well, why would I take this player when I can take the same player, around, later, unless you just really think Kamara, is going to bury Ingram and just pull away. And I don't think that's the case. Sean Payton has shown that he likes having those two styles, right? So Darren Sproles, had one really great year under him, but he didn't have multiple great years. And I do believe Kamara is different. I love watching the guy. He's amazing. Just the price is too high. As far as an undervalued guy, I'll be honest, I'm loving what the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds look like. I could just pick all day in those rounds. Now, those things will start to tease themselves out and things will start to change. But, right now, if I'm looking at it, you're going to give me A.J. Green in the 2nd round. Okay, yes, I'm happy with that. If you want to look at even later, somebody that's, truly, like you guys said, flying under the radar. I want to see what happens with Kenyon Drake. I want to see what happens with these rookie running backs because it's always supply and demand, right? There are a ton of good backs now, and people are going to draft the backs heavy, but there's so many that I think in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, there's going to be plenty of players. It's not going to be like last year where, the 3rd or 4th best rookie like a Joe Mixon, people are taking them in the 5th round. I think you're going to see guys falling into the 6th and the 7th just because of the supply that's available. And I think that receivers, honestly, it's kind of flipped. There's less good receivers, in my opinion, right now, or you've got quarterback issues across the board. So I think, this might be a year where it's better to maybe take an elite back if you've got an early pick, come back and nab 2 receivers, and then come back and still be able to get 2 or 3 really good runners.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of drafting early, the Football Guys contest is now going to start almost a month earlier, Dwayne. And I know you don't normally draft early, but if you want to get A.J. Green a little bit later than normal, maybe change your tune a little bit.
Do we have a fixed date? It's May. Is it May 4th?
I don't know. It's like
May
like
the 4th,
Sunday.
Star Wars Day. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
I'm
Star
gonna
Wars Day. What is Star Wars?
May the 4th be with you.
You know what?
That's the thing. I'm not
yeah,
making
for
that
nerds.
up. May 6th is the first Sunday.
So guys, I profess the reason I don't start, Dave, like in May is because if I did, I would draft 70 teams. Once I start, I don't stop.
I'm asking you to draft.
It's like I know. Yeah, you're like exactly. So
That's
do
why
it.
I want you to draft.
The problem is managing that, man. Oh my gosh, I've done that before. I've had one year, me and my buddy had like 45 teams. That was just insane. I still enjoyed it, but it just wasn't near as fun. For me, the sweet spot is that 12, to 16. I've done 20 and done well. But when I start getting past that, it just starts to, it's a lot of time invested to doing that stuff right.
Well, really the key, though, we found this out in Kentucky. The key is to draft all these teams and only have like 4 that are good. So week 4, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're just ignoring the rest of the teams.
Yeah, you have to self-tank a little bit to try to make sure.
Well, we don't even try.
Well, I don't.
This year.
There's obviously Kurt was the one team we're like, okay, Kurt, you try.
Yeah, Kurt. This year we actually had 12 main-event teams in Kentucky. Normally we have, honestly, we normally have like 7 or 8, or sometimes even 9 that are good. This year they were all terrible except for Kurt's, which was good. And he won the whole thing.
I had one that made the championship round too.
Yeah, okay.
Yours
was moderately okay.
It was moderately okay.
So Dwayne, what are your plans for the $30,000 that you won in the 2018 Football Guys Players?
2017 that should be. I blame.
Who the hell wrote this?
Blame Rob for that.
All right. 2017.
It is in the bank. So no super exciting plans, but I have a son that just turned 16. He hasn't decided on a vehicle, so part of it will probably be going towards that. And then, a good chunk of it will probably get reinvested with you guys or some kind of fantasy game.
Yeah.
Well, at least you're not putting it into his college fund. I appreciate that you're going to buy him a Porsche 911 that's like 12 years old.
Yeah, some sort of
$29,995.
Some sort of jalopy that $30,000 will probably buy.
Yeah.
Listen.
Get him a Mini Cooper convertible.
Yeah.
Chicks dig it because mostly they own them.
Yes, that's totally true.
Oh yeah,
and we dig you.
He
Dwayne.
wants the classics. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, this was a classic, a throwback interview tonight. We had you on in 2014. 4 years later, we have you back again. I'd like to say, Dwayne, that the next time we have you on is when you're, proudly holding that $250,000 check. And you've been near the top before. You certainly know what it takes, and good luck to you. Maybe even doing it in 2018. Congrats on all your success, and good luck in all your drafts this year, man. Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. You guys have a good one.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Dwayne Mcfarlane. Follow him on Twitter at Dwayne Mcfarlane, and follow him at the top of the Football Guys leaderboard, almost perennially. It seems like.
Yeah.
See,
I'm going to go follow him right now.
Yeah, go do that. Great guy, great insight, Dave, into how he likes to form these teams. We get a lot of qualitative analysis, and we get the analytics guy, and tonight we got some quantitative stuff that I think people can actually use and try out in their drafts. Good information on forcing the issue at the turn. A lot of people don't like to be at the turn in the draft because they get left out in the cold on certain things. Dwayne takes the opposite approach. Back into the corner, be aggressive, lash out like that wounded animal that you are in the corner, and
take two quarterbacks in the 10th, 11th round,
and win $30,000. That's how it works. I want to thank Football Guys, Roto World, and Rob for tonight's rundown. ESPN's David Newton believes the Panthers, quote, could overhaul, unquote, their wide receiver group this offseason. Newton mentioned Funchess, Curtis Samuel, and Damiere Byrd as the only ones that should feel safe entering this season. Funchess was, of course, the de facto number one wideout last year after the trade of Kelvin Benjamin to Buffalo, but certainly a lot of people have said he is more suited to that complementary number two role. He is actually entering the final year of his rookie contract. Of course, last season's second-round pick, Curtis Samuel, had a lot of ankle issues, really never could get on the field and make an impact. And Damiere Byrd, who knows what you're going to get from him on a week-to-week basis. Cam Newton obviously needs that dominant number one target hog as his number one wideout. Ian Rappaport from NFL Network mentions that the Panthers may be involved in the Jarvis Landry trade talks with the Miami Dolphins. Carolina may be using their first-round pick on a receiver. So you look at this, Dave, from a fantasy standpoint, don't care about Damiere Byrd, not really that excited about Curtis Samuel in dynasty or redraft. Funchess is the interesting guy here because we saw what he could do as the number one receiver last year. I'm actually wondering if now is the time to flip him in dynasty for something coming off such a great year.
Well, his year was great enough that I got offered a 2018 third-round pick for him.
Yikes, that's really bad.
It is pretty bad.
That is bad.
But, honestly, I don't think you're getting a 2018 first for him. I just don't.
No, I don't think you could.
So, what are you going to get, 2018 second? Is that, do you trade him for that? I don't know. The thing that's not exciting for me about him is because Cam Newton, he's probably the third offensive receiving target in the offense behind Olsen and McCaffrey. So I don't know if he's going to get the targets. I just don't see him being a high-volume guy. And I don't think he's all that super talented. Although, again, as we've said time and again, he did come in the NFL as a really young guy. Mm-hmm. And so he's still kind of growing as a receiver. He's pretty tall and big enough already. He's probably not growing as a person.
Well, he might be growing as a person. I have to talk to his therapist about that. He is currently going at the 6-12 in FFPC drafts. Remember, a lot of the damage that he did last year was when Greg Olsen was on the shelf, and this is after Benjamin was traded, too. Devin Funchess turns 24 on May 21st, so he is not even 24 yet.
It's crazy. This is his fourth year.
Age 24 season. This will be his he was drafted in the 2015 NFL draft, second-round pick, so this will be his fourth year in the NFL. Pretty crazy.
I just don't, I don't think I'd feel all that great about having him as my number 3 or even number 4 wide receiver. Like, you do it when you have to, like during bye weeks, but I don't think I know he does have upside. I just don't know I just don't think it's going to happen.
You're of the opinion though, but you're probably not going to get an early second, late first round pick for him in Dynasty right now.
You could offer him away for I would maybe start going 108. Why not? Maybe someone likes him. Throw out the 107 and down to 112, 201. And if that's what you're willing to give him up for, go, just throw out those 6 or 7 offers and see what happens.
This is awfully early and kind of an unfair question I'm going to ask you, but if in a rookie draft, where would you imagine he would go? The 107, 108 area?
So I think if he was caught, I would say he'd probably go around the 111, 112.
111, 112.
I mean, because it's a pretty deep running back draft, not a really deep receiver draft, supposedly.
Right.
But, you kind of have, after 3 seasons, you have a pretty good idea what you got out of Funchess. So, people would I would take the risk with DJ Moore, for example, wide receiver, who I actually really like quite a bit. Because I think he has more, I just don't know, and that's better, actually.
You know what I'm curious about? Once again, nobody is talking about Calvin Ridley's age except for us on this show. At least I haven't heard it.
Old man
which
Ridley.
I fail to understand why this does not.
I'm probably not going to be drafting him.
This does not come into play.
Because he's what, 6 foot 190. He's an older player, and he's never been all that productive at Alabama. Granted, their offense sucks, but whatever.
He is 7 months younger than Devin Funchess.
That's nuts.
7 months younger than Devin Funchess is Calvin Ridley.
And, I mean, seriously, look at this production.
Who'd you rather take if he's available in the rookie draft, Funchess or Ridley?
To be honest, I would have to probably say Ridley, and that's just because of the fact that
the unknown.
The unknown.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So the known, it's like the what is it?
The known known.
The known knowns.
That known known.
The unknown knowns and the unknown unknowns.
Right.
That was one of George Bush's strategists. I forgot his name.
No. I couldn't tell you.
I don't even want to think about it.
Well, let's not talk about
the Iraq War starters.
Well, we'll talk about a guy we just mentioned in Jarvis Landry. Ian Rappaport mentioned the Titans, Panthers, Saints, and Bears as teams that could be interested in a trade for the Dolphins franchise tag player. And by the way, I saw a report from Miami Dolphins beat writer tonight. He said he would be surprised if Landry was not traded. So certainly, and the thing to bring this up was if you watched the interview, the Titans were the team he mostly focused on, first team that he mentioned, and the other 3 were kind of afterthoughts. Eric Decker did not work out last year in Tennessee. Now, Taywan Taylor will be there. I know a lot of people are excited about him from a dynasty standpoint. Obviously, Corey Davis is the alpha in that offense, or the expected alpha in that offense. Rashard Matthews
he was the unknown quantity in the offense.
What? Okay, yeah.
Well, he is.
Yeah, no, that's
he
true.
Didn't do anything.
That's true.
He's no alpha.
That's why I'm saying he's the expected. I like Corey Davis right now. I was actually trying to get who was I? I was talking dynasty trade with somebody, and I was like, boy, I'd love to get Corey Davis from this guy. But I was like, there's no way he's going to give him up. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overvaluing Corey Davis, but I think he's going to be really, really good.
Well, he had 34 catches for 375 yards and touchdown.
But he was hurt.
0.0
yes,
touchdown.
I understand. Yes, the stats were not great. And if you drafted in a one-year dynasty league last year, you were obviously very upset with what you got out of Corey Davis.
Ha ha ha! That's so true, Balky. But production matters. That, in fact,
it does.
It's mostly what matters coming out of college.
How many games did he play last year, by the way?
Let me check.
All right, I thought you had it up.
My customer's not right here.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot here. I thought that you had it up, but I don't know. It's certainly possible. I'm overvaluing Corey Davis. I want to bring this back to Landry while you look this up. I know you didn't listen, but we do the monthly shows on the Appleton Trophy Fantasy Football Show on AM 1570 and 95.3, 99.1 FM as well if you're in Oshkosh, or the Score.
What's the website again?
ScoreWI.net.
Oh, thank you.
So we had our show yesterday.
Hang on. It's thescorewi.net?
Excuse me. No, that's not it. TheScoreWI.com is what it is. I don't know.
I wanted somebody else.
Well, because
ScoreWI.com was holding it hostage.
It's because their email addresses for the people who work there, they often end in WCI.net.
All right, great.
Or WCInet.com, and it always confuses me.
Right on.
TheScoreWI.com.
10 games for Corey Davis.
10 games for Corey Davis. Okay, so that's like 3.5 catches a game. That's not great. But whatever.
0 touchdowns for
0 touchdowns
on average.
But remember, Mariota was. I'm not going to keep making excuses for Corey Davis, but the Titans definitely underwhelmed last year and got hot at the playoffs. Time of the playoffs. What were you just talking about? Landry. I brought this up on the show.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that no matter where Landry gets traded to, I think we need to be careful not to overvalue the change in his stats. Because I don't think that they will change too much. I think that anybody that is willing to give up what the Dolphins would be asking for Landry, I think that they will use him to the full extent of his skills and get the best bang for their buck. And I think that is 900 yards, 90 to 100 catches, 4 to 5 touchdowns.
And 7 yards a catch.
Which is fine. I mean, whatever.
Whatever it is, 9.
But my point is, like, I think no matter, it's fun to talk about where could he go. I don't know if there is a best case destination for him right now that I'm really rooting for, because I don't know if it changes that much.
Well, what I feel like is if he does get traded, that wherever he goes, people will try and sell themselves on the story. If you're a person who likes Landry, you'll sell yourself on the story that he's going to do just as well, maybe better, but definitely not worse.
Right.
So, and there's enough Landry people out there that I feel like he's not going to be discounted. So I'm not going to get any value on him. And there is more risk. I mean, when you leave the team and the organization where you've compiled all your stats and go somewhere else, there is a risk. I mean, it's like if you're in a marriage with somebody and it's just pretty okay, and you go out of the marriage and you get married to somebody else, there's a risk. It's different.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd be willing to pay up for Landry. I feel like I'm going to have to pay full price for him. I'd rather get a deal somewhere else.
Look at these 4 teams right here that he mentions. The Titans, Panthers, Saints, and Bears. I think there's one that sticks out to me that I think I might like him going to more so than the others. And it's not the one you'd think.
For me, it'd be the Bears.
I think so,
Everybody
too.
sucks there.
I think, yeah. And you have a young quarterback that might rely on throwing to him quite a bit. The Saints, there's a zillion options. The Panthers have Olsen, McCaffrey, Funchess. The Titans, I know you're not, it doesn't strike me as you being a huge Corey Davis fan, but he's there. Walker, Rashard Matthews. I think they're going to bring in a pass-catching running back in the draft to pair with Derrick Henry, and I think Murray's gone. But Chicago, man, maybe that's the one I'm rooting for right now, for him to get traded to.
Well, so the new head coach is Matt Nagy.
Yep.
And their offensive coordinator is a guy who's from Oregon, actually, was one of the disciples of Mr.
Chip Kelly.
Crazy guy, Chip Kelly.
Crazy Chip Kelly.
Crazy Chip.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy's not so crazy.
Maybe he's not. Maybe he's just a little bit crazy.
Maybe he just likes those crazy helmets.
Sometimes we all go a little crazy, Dave. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport also reports the Steelers are, quote, listening to potential deals for Martavis Bryant. Fox Sports' Jason La Canfora, take it for what it's worth and consider the source. He actually said that this was not true. They were not listening to offers. They were not shopping him around. So the national media butting heads on this. But you look at Martavis Bryant now, Dave. Now, he's another guy I look at where maybe if he gets traded, that's when you sell on him. Because I think if he even if he was to go to a situation that is bereft of wide receiver talent, I don't know how much he actually gets done there. I'm a little sour on Martavis Bryant right now.
It's kind of interesting because I'm actually a little more optimistic than you, I think, because I've never owned him, never really liked him that much not as a person or whatever. I felt there was always a kind of a character thing with him, but I think he does have some talent. If he goes somewhere else and gets a fresh start, I think that there might be some opportunity there. And I don't think he's going to be super pricey. He hasn't done that much lately. He did nothing the year before, and then $681, big deal.
First of all, his value is like nothing right now behind Brown and Smith-Schuster in Pittsburgh.
Right.
If he does get traded, there is going to be a wave of positivity about how he could be the alpha on that team. He could be the guy that's commanding 120, 130 targets, whatever. And then at that point, I think I'm willing to take the risk of, I'm going to cash in my chips on Martavis Bryant, see what I can get for him. And maybe somebody who believes, like you, maybe somebody who believes in him would take a chance on him. Now, that said, I'm not going to give him away for free. But he's definitely a guy that I think if I don't sell him right away after, because I own him in a league, in a dynasty league, if I don't sell him right away after he's traded, I'm probably just hanging on to him.
I feel like that it's kind of like doing surrender in blackjack. Like you get dealt a 15 or 16, dealer's throwing a 10, and like because you say you're cashing in your chips, but you're not cashing in your chips. You're cashing in about half the chips that you probably paid for them.
Yeah, but I don't get to keep the rest of them.
Maybe not. But like you're not. Yeah, you're selling him at, I wouldn't say a discount, but definitely at a loss, right? Unless you got him for at some other point off waivers or whatnot.
Right.
But for most people, you'd be selling at a loss, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. So that's my opinion on Martavis Bryant currently. One of Balky's boys from 2017. Nice. Okay. Also from the news blotter here, this is from Football Guys. Ryan Tannehill, Rashad Jones, Kenny Stills, Kiko Alonso, and Andre Branch, all candidates to restructure their contracts this offseason so that the Dolphins can create some cap space because they have a $26 million commitment this year to, you guessed it, Ndamukong Suh. So you have, here's the interesting part, and this is why I bring it up, because I never really considered this as a possibility. And I don't know who wrote this for Football Guys. Somebody who's running their news blotter. They said they wouldn't remotely be shocked if Tannehill and Stills weren't with the team come September. Now, Kenny Stills is kind of a guy I was excited about, Dave. A young guy that they paid a significant amount of money for. Devontae Parker is underwhelmed. It sounds like they're trading Jarvis Landry. Everything should be coming up Stills. Why would they be getting rid of him? This is like a prime opportunity for him to succeed right now. I don't. Again, this is one man's opinion, or one website's opinion. It's just weird to think that they could be getting rid of Stills too.
Well, they're talking. The news article says that they're going to want him to probably restructure, and then whoever hypothesizes that he might possibly just get cut or whatever.
Yeah.
First of all, can we all agree that this is the worst front office, but maybe behind the Browns, the former Browns.
The Colts are not great either.
Yeah, their owner's drunk all the time. He just says, "Oh, go ahead and do it." I don't know, man. I agree with you though. Stills is someone I would be excited about. Yeah. And they're going to let me get this straight. They're going to trade Landry.
Yep.
And they're going to cut Stills. Parker's going to suck. What are they going to do? Who's going to catch passes? Nobody?
And they're cutting Julius Thomas, so there goes the tight end. Deion Sims, perhaps? Maybe they moved Ryan Tannehill back to his collegiate position of wide receiver?
Maybe they should trade for Landry.
The Dolphins?
Yeah, maybe they should trade him back to themselves. They're the best candidate to trade for the guy they're trying to trade away.
They got the ammo to get that done.
Total moron.
Kenny Stills going at the 1303 in FFPC drafts right now. Right at same spot, actually, same ADP as Colorado State wide receiver rookie Michael Gallup. Going at the same spot as him, so that's interesting. Still, I'd be all over Stills in the 13th round.
I'd rather draft Stills than Michael Gallup.
I would too.
This in redraft for sure.
Free agent running back Isaiah Crowell is not expected to be retained, according to ESPN Cleveland.com's Tony Grossi. He says he believes the Browns starting running back will be a high draft pick. Dave, when I think high draft pick, I think 101, 104. Hey, the Browns own both those picks. Probably going to use one on quarterback, and it could be Barkley as the 104 there.
I actually wonder if I think they might take Barkley 101 if they're going to take him.
I think that is a mistake.
Well, that might be the case.
It's also Cleveland.
So if they
Saquon Barkley no matter what.
Well, I guess they have to project who's going to go 2 or 3, but those other teams could leapfrog them. They're well aware that they have the 4 pick, and that they have Duke Johnson, but that they need more of a 3-down type back.
But when you need a quarterback, and I think Josh Norris from Roto-World said this, and I apologize if he didn't, but
the name Josh. That's 2 of my sucky quarterbacks from this year's class.
You have Josh Rosen and Josh Allen.
They're both my suck list.
So do you like Darnold?
No.
Darnold your guy?
No.
Oh, so you like Baker Mayfield. Danny Mueller?
I like the 2 Mays. I like Mayfield and Mason Rudolph.
And
that's how I remember him.
What about Lamar Jackson?
I haven't watched enough of his stuff, but I'm interested in him because
I saw him crush Florida State back-to-back.
A lot of times I miss on those running type dual threat quarterbacks, so I think I might be interested in Lamar Jackson.
Bill Polian, former Colts GM, says the 6'3" Lamar Jackson too short to play the quarterback position.
What a dope.
Okay, so let's.
What do you think of Mayfield then?
Yeah, exactly. So let's get back to Crowell here.
Yeah.
I want to talk briefly about the Browns' backfield. I am not at all interested in Isaiah Crowell. No matter what, he could sign like a Chris Ivory to the Jags type deal where they're paying him to be the starter. Remember who was the white Toby Gerhart? Remember him? Signed all that.
I remember Jack Hahn drafted once at the 108 in the dynasty draft.
Yeah, and like they're paying him to be their starters, and you know what? Crowell could get a contract like that, and I would have no interest in him.
There was like a 30-page white running back thread with Toby Gerhart. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
So I have no interest in Crowell. Duke Johnson, I think his value is I don't want to say it's largely going to stay the same if they use a high pick on a running back, but I think he will.
It's Barkley that he's dropping big time.
Really? Think so? That Barkley just be out there all the time?
I sure as hell hope so.
I don't know. I still think they'd find a way to get Duke Johnson going. By the way, Duke Johnson's ADP the same as Dez Bryant's right now, 5'11".
I feel like that's a little early for Duke Johnson. I actually like him as a player because of the substantial risk that he's going to get picked off. I think Barkley's the pick.
Barkley at the 112 right now in FPC drafts. Well, whoever takes Barkley is going to be using him a lot.
Right.
So, okay, let's move on and talk about the quarterbacks in review. Talk about how the quarterbacks finished for the last segment of the show tonight. This is something we always like to do every year. is take a look at what went wrong. Well, you know what? I like to. You always rip on this every year, and every year I still do it.
See, at least it's consistent.
Yeah, it is consistent. So a few talking points here that I want to bring up. Number 1 quarterback last year, Russell Wilson. Now, he finished head and shoulders above the quarterback 2, nearly 55, almost 55 points ahead of Cam Newton at 2. You look at Russell Wilson this year, Dave, and this is a guy that is going to have a new offensive coordinator, probably no Jimmy Graham, an aging Doug Baldwin. Paul Richardson's a free agent. Tyler Lockett is, underwhelmed. Offensive line still not great. Not a good running game. And he's going at the 508 in drafts. I feel like that's an okay price for him, but even coming off a season like this, I don't know if I'd be pulling the trigger on him in the mid-5th.
That is pretty early, but it's weird that so he's the number 1 quarterback being drafted, or isn't he?
No,
he's
last year he finished this.
No, I know, but right now he's like
number 2.
Okay, behind what?
Behind Mr. Danica Patrick, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Going at the 408. Russell Wilson going at the 508.
Danica's beard, Rodgers.
You want to take a guess, by the way, who's going at the 608 as the QB3?
Who are the other ones you said?
Rodgers is number 1. Russell Wilson's 2. You know who the number 3?
Brady?
No, he's number 4.
Breeze?
No, this is a much younger guy.
Okay, Watson or Wentz?
It is Watson.
Watson
going at the 608, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Carson Wentz is the number 5, coincidentally, at the 707.
All right, so
go ahead, Russell Wilson point that you're going to make.
I still like Russell Wilson. I feel like last year he was getting drafted coming off of the year that it was just not as good.
Yeah.
Coming off injuries.
Yeah.
In this, like the 6th or 7th. I mean, it's not like you're paying that much more of a price for last year's production. All the points you make are actually pretty good, though. I mean, I think it's the arrow is kind of pointed downward. His division is tough. He's got the up and coming Niners, and he's supposed to deal with the Rams. But I just love his talent. I mean, he's a great running quarterback, and I do think I'm going to toot our horn a little bit on this. Okay. I think we were definitely on Russell Wilson last year heading into the season. We thought he was a good guy to draft. And I see there's another thing that's going to be talked about is Kirk Cousins. I thought we kind of didn't mind him at all either.
Not only did we not mind him, I was actually too high on Kirk Cousins. I said he'd be the number 1 quarterback last year.
I mean, I remember laughing at you about it, but we still liked it. I mean, it was pretty
I said he'd be the number 1 fantasy quarterback. He was number 4, which, I'll give myself a light tap on the back for that.
That's still pretty good.
So Kirk Cousins finishes as quarterback 4, almost past Brady and Newton for number 2. He, right now, Dave, is going at the 907. He is teamless right now, going behind the likes of Matthew Stafford. Andrew freaking Luck is going in front of him right now.
Hey, Luck's supposed to be throwing.
Drew Brees with weighted footballs. Did you see that? What's the reasoning behind that? Like, hey, this guy's shoulder's all messed up. Let's give him a football. Hell no, let's give him a super heavy football and have him throw that around.
I don't know.
I mean,
I totally agree with you. Who is the therapist that's doing that?
Like this.
Maybe we could get him to tear it again.
It's like, hey, listen, he's doing really good at these weighted footballs. Can we send him out to California, have him start chopping some of those giant sequoias down, just with that one bad shoulder?
Andrew, we're going to give you Nerf balls, but you have to throw really, really fast.
Yeah,
really fast.
And like almost to the point where it's hurting. Then push yourself a little bit further.
Torque it.
Exactly. It's so ridiculous. Okay, so this year Kirk Cousins is going at the 907 right now in drafts as the QB10. Dave, I think this is too low. Too low for Kirk Cousins right now.
Well, you're right now you're getting a discount because of the uncertainty. But there's most of the landing spots that are being bandied about. I mean, the Jets may not be the best one or whatever, but the Broncos. I mean, that would be
that's where I think he is going to sign. That's my prediction right now.
Yeah. So. And there's a couple other ones. So I think that, I think he's a better, he kind of runs the ship here.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. He's been getting paid on a year-by-year basis, not getting hurt, getting like 20s and 30s millions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
He's going to make the right decisions. I trust Kirk Cousins. He's one of the, I watched an article about how he prepares. He is probably the best prepared quarterback in the NFL.
Really?
Yeah, he does all sorts of weird crap just to optimize his game.
Yeah, weird crap that optimizes our game.
I don't know, he lives in a hyperbaric chamber. He's getting enemas every other day. I don't know what he's doing, but it's something good.
Denver had the opportunity to save some cap space and cut Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders or offer them to agree to restructured contracts. They chose not to this point, and I think the whole reason for that is to say, hey, look, you could sign with the Jets. They have Robbie Anderson and a banged-up Quincy Enunwa, or you could come to Denver where we have a studly defense backed up with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, like two proven receivers, and you could just be the missing link.
Well, with the quality defense, they're an instant Super Bowl contender with a good quarterback.
AFC is easier, in my opinion. I think the AFC, it's easier to get to the Super Bowl right now than it is in the NFC.
I don't know. Maybe.
Right.
50-50 chance of that.
Okay. You don't have to agree.
I don't want to go through the whole.
Drop down to that's fine. Drop down to number 6 and number 7. Two surprises here, guys that were drafted as backups or not at all in number 6's case. That's Alex Smith. And number 7 on this list, Phillip Rivers. Their ability to repeat what they did last year, Dave. Alex Smith gets to enjoy the weapons that Kirk Cousins had at his disposal last year. Josh Doctson, Jamison Crowder. Jordan Reed for whatever it's worth. Alex Smith goes there, and Philip.
You laugh.
I know it's terrible. Phillip Rivers will have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Tyrell Williams, Hunter Henry, Antonio Gates, Melvin Gordon. A lot of weapons there.
I can't believe Gates is coming back so annoying.
So it's so crazy. Oh, by the way, again, the other thing I want to say on the show is about the show that we did yesterday, the Appleton Trophy Fantasy Football Show. I don't know where we got these notes when we were talking about potential free agents, but the guy who was writing the notes about Antonio Gates said watching him move on the field was like watching honey squeeze out of a bottle. Things like that. It's the
oozes downfield.
Yeah, it just oozes downfield. Okay, so you look at these guys, Alex Smith and Phillip Rivers. They're not. I'll just look at their ADPs right now.
I bet they're way lower.
I bet they probably haven't moved, in all honesty, from where they were last year. Alex Smith is at the 10-11, so that's a little bit high.
10 was it?
The end of the 10th round.
So what number quarterback is he being taken?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You know what? I have to count, and I wish.
You're good at counting. Go ahead.
Phillip Rivers is going ahead of him at the 10:04.
This will make great radio for you to count.
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16,
oh my God.
19. So he's a quarterback 20. Alex
Are you
Smith
serious?
right now. Yeah.
So he's quarterback 20.
Let me count. You
like
make
18.
your point. I'm going to count again.
Rivers is like 18. Good gracious. I mean, I know that this again. It shows you the utter craziness. There's so many quarterbacks available.
I screwed up. I'm sorry. Phillip Rivers is 14.
Nevertheless, that's still pretty low. And Smith is like 16.
18 for Alex Smith.
All right. 14, 18, so they both go on that second QB run, right?
Yeah.
That hip-hop.
You're looking at...
all those QBs going to the 10.
You're looking at... we'll start it with... Matthew Stafford actually kind of leads this off, Dave, at the 9:05. And then you have Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ben Roethlisberger, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, Matt Ryan, Marcus Mariota, Alex Smith, Derek Carr, Patrick Mahomes. Essentially, all those guys are going by the end of the 10th round. So you're looking at a round and a half of all those quarterbacks there. So that's in everybody's. These are best balls, so everybody's kind of gobbling them up there because of the runs.
Right.
But you look at there's a lot of different ways to go there. But Phillip Rivers and Alex Smith, they're pretty super solid.
So I think what you do in redraft is, like you were just saying. So now in redraft, if you were doing this, like say in a football guys tournament or a main event. You take your first quarterback in like the 10th, right? At the earliest.
Right.
If you're in a wait. But then I think you could grab another one of these guys that's going also in the 10th, 11th in best ball in like the 14th. Because they will fall. I mean, you will have like quarterback 20, 21, 22. So a couple of guys won't even take a backup. And then, maybe someone like the Rodgers guy or the Breeze guy will take somebody in the 19th round. I think you go 10th round, 14th round, and look at all those.
Are you talking about for best ball?
No, for redraft.
Okay.
Yeah, so just wait on your second guy. You can still get one of the studs.
Yep.
Well, one of the, possible studs.
Right, exactly. So you have the opportunity, Dave, if you were going to take Carson Wentz or Deshaun Watson. Carson Wentz, who finished 8th at quarterback last year. Deshaun Watson obviously finished at 27th, but he played like 4 games and that was it. Watson going super, super high right now, definitely being drafted on the high end of the spectrum. 608, or you could wait to the 707 and take Carson Wentz. If you're dead set on drafting one of those young quarterbacks, which one are you taking?
I'm taking Watson.
Yeah, I think.
Let me explain.
The Wentz's injury was really bad.
Wentz's injury was bad, and it happened late.
Right.
Watson's was earlier, and granted, he's a different quarterback.
And he didn't have all the ligaments shredded.
I feel like Wentz was. And plus, you still have Foles. I have a feeling they're going to keep Foles, and Wentz will. either not come back next year or struggle to come back next year or come back in week 10 or something. They have no reason. It's a good team. Foles is a really good quarterback. They have no reason to rush him back, and I think they're keeping Foles. That's my opinion.
I want to talk about mid-tier pairings because a lot of people like to do that in fantasy drafts, and obviously we only have this best ball data, which is skewed a little bit when you get to this area as opposed to redraft. But Dave, you could easily, if this is the way it's going to go this year, I'm fine with not drafting a quarterback till the 9th round again, and you could get Jimmy Garoppolo and Phillip Rivers. You could get Ben Roethlisberger and Jameis Winston. You could get Jared Goff and Marcus Mariota. There's a zillion different ways. You could get Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott if you wanted.
Yeah, didn't we just, or is this the same conversation?
I don't know.
I feel like we just talked about that.
Yeah, well, I think the point, I guess I'm seconding your point here because there's a lot of different combinations you could get. And to sort of put a bow on the quarterbacks, and we'll move on. This was one of the most striking things, and I think I made a note of it on your sheet. I felt like Dak Prescott had an awesome 2016, flat out killed it, crushed it, whatever, however you want to say it. And then in 2017 regressed, did not have as good a year.
That was the narrative, yes.
That not only is, well, that was just my personal opinion. That's just the way I felt about it.
Right.
I was shocked.
Seen that way.
Yeah, I was shocked that both years he finished as the QB 10. Both years,
that's actually pretty nice.
He was the QB 10. You want to rip on what he did last year, throw him under the bus in 2016. You want to praise him for 2016, bow down before his 2017 performance because they were the exact same. And it's separated by 8 or 9 points, too.
I feel like it's because Prescott, he started out the year pretty good, right? And then he kind of tailed off at the end.
He did. He had his share of clunkers.
And I think that it actually goes back to psychology. People... They look, you know why you go to the dentist and they give you a lollipop when you leave? Even for you as an adult, probably you get those lollipops.
I do not.
They want you to have a good experience when you leave, so you don't think about the badness that happened the whole time you were there. Yeah. It's a psychological thing. Yeah. So people are psyching themselves out of Prescott because he sucked early. So now they keep sucking. So now here's what I think. Phrasing. Here's what I think is going to happen this year. Good one. So right now he is being drafted, Dave, as the. Now, this is great radio. Terrible. QB 14. You know what that makes him? A value? A value. Since he's going to finish as the QB 10. Obviously, he's going to finish exactly the same. Exactly. He's the most consistent man in the business, unlike this podcast, which mercifully has now come to an end. Dez has 180 points off of the right quadrant, as always, running exactly. 9 routes the whole game. I'm debating where I'm at with Dez Bryant right now. I sent out a bunch of trade offers, and I heard back from a few people. Trying to deal him? I'm trying to deal him. I'm at the point right now where I'm considering dealing him for a 2019 second rounder. I haven't been able to pull the trigger on that. I have a guy who's interested. I mean, come on. I'm not going to say who, but I have a guy interested in Carrington. I told him, I said, if you get anything from the 201 to 204, if you're able to acquire it, you let me know because I will trade you Dez Bryant straight up. He's like, I will make that happen. All right. So he's down for that. Optimist, he's working on it. It's not Optimist. Optimist, I've already acquired all his draft picks and subsequently traded them. Oh, that's so funny. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm down on Dez big time. I want to thank Dwayne Mcfarlane, the guy I'm not down on, for his contributions tonight. Great stuff from him. I want to thank Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, Rob, our mutual friend and producer, and Bryce, audio engineer, of course, each and every one of you for staying listening to this podcast tonight. Thank you so much. Happy birthday goes out to Fester. Oh, right. John Kleinfelter, celebrating his 28th birthday today. 28th anniversary of some birthday of his. So happy birthday, Fester. All right, Fester. Long-time FFPC player there, so that's awesome that he is celebrating today. And so if you're talking about a guy who, you're like, oh, hey, Bulky, Dwayne Mcfarlane, he drafts a ton of those best ball. Yes, best ball teams. but by your non-pluralization of it, it should just be understood that it's plural. You don't say a bunch of those best ball. He plays a lot of best ball. Yeah, but that's not. You can't have it both ways. Is my point. You can't just be like,
I'm gonna hack off the S here and it'll count.
It's a best ball league. It's an adjective. It's a dual word adjective. Best
so I
ball.
can't even say best balls anymore.
Ball is not the noun. Best ball is the adjective to describe the leagues.
The whole reason I wanted to change.
Look, we have to figure out if it's balls is a noun or ball is part of the adjective best ball.
No, best is the adjective. It's the modifier of ball.
Yeah, but it's a best ball league. It's like best ball hyphen. Should be a hyphen.
There's no hyphen. There wouldn't be a hyphen. There should not be a hyphen in that, for sure. We have a lot of stuff to sort out here.
I'm going to go to a professor of linguistics, and we'll figure it out.
And my brother took a lot of master's classes for linguistics at NC State.
Yeah, we
could talk to him.
Yeah, we could ask Kermit, too. If feeling an insight, he might give us some linguistics.
He's got some Cornell connections.
Yeah, tell him to get an English professor.
All right.
On the best ball.
We have our work cut out for you, ladies and gentlemen. We will not let you down. Thanks for listening.